back, everyone. Today's Wednesday, March the 20th. I just said hello to my cohort, and we're going to start with the lesson soon. I'm going to point the camera over to my screen, and we're going to get started. I have a very interesting class today, and going forward, we're going to focus on more of the web segments, and we're going to have a strong finish for the semester. All right, so here we go. And I'm going to share my screen, and like always, please confirm that you can see my screen. This way, I know it's working, and everybody can see what I'm doing. Sometimes it's hard for me to see on your end, of course. So just let me know if you can see my screen, please. Just give me a quick hands up or thumbs up. Thank you. Very good. Appreciate that. Alrighty, so here we are. This is module number 10. This covers class 10 and 11. We have some web sources here to look at. I just realized there was the visibility was turned off, and I just turned it back on. This way you can see the content that's here. These are the web image sources that we're going to use. It'll just save us a lot of time going to the internet looking for sources. I have them supplied for you. We also have a Photoshop wireframe file here. Okay, so we're going to take a look at that one also. Before we do this, however, I did notice last lesson I did cover the clipping paths and some of the clipping masks that we used, and we were able to take that stuff into InDesign, and I also elaborated more how vectors utilized in Photoshop, and you can take it back and forth from Illustrator. I'm going to just quickly take a dive from last week's lesson just to quickly show you where we left off, because there's one more thing I wanted to talk about before we move forward. This way we have everything kind of covered properly. I guess it's class number 9. Okay, so here it is. Again, keep practicing your tracing. Pen tool is very important. The difference was holding the command or the control key when you cut those corners and you convert these corners into paths, and like from a curve to a corner, just make sure you hold the command key. I noticed in Illustrator and other programs, you don't really have to. You just simply click on the anchor point to cut to go straight. So just remember Option, Command, or Control are standard shortcuts to enable you having more control when it comes to drawing these vector shapes, right? All right, there's some of the sources that we did last week, and there was the TTC files. I know this was an assignment I gave you, so just basically you're going to show me some of these clipping paths that you did in Photoshop, and convert them into whether you do a clipping mask or you do a layer clipping or your clipping path. I can open your file and see it there. All right, so we covered all that in the last lesson. The video should be uploaded. Sometimes it does take me a while because I have to download it and upload it and stuff. So I try to do it as fast as I can. And I do apologize if some of you are waiting for it the next day, and sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days. I do apologize, but nonetheless, I mean, even if you're attending the class, you should be able to get a good grasp on what's happening. So try to do that, of course. So these are the sources that we used last week. We took a photo that looked like this, and we color emphasized it more like that. So you can see the big difference between the color elements and how we did some color adjustment techniques. Again, that's in the last week's lesson. I just noticed there was 2 other images. I kind of didn't really wanted to make this too redundant, but it is important to show you how to make some other types of selections. I'm going to use this image for an example to do that. This again is from last week's lesson. If you want to open the file or any image for that fact, you can just go to Open in Photoshop, and you'll see here that person show up very soon. I said very soon. Let's see here. What's going on here? Oh, it's opening Photoshop. I did have to shut down my computer earlier. I just got back home, actually. I hit some traffic. There was a little bit of a blizzard where I was. It was near Markham area, and there was a lot of snow and stuff. So I was like, oh, hope I'm not going to be late today. And sure enough, I made it back on time. Alrighty. So there we go. We're going to open this up. So the thing about this image is there's a lot of similar examples to this one where you have to do some main selections. The most difficult thing to select always has been hair, Okay, whether it's an animal or a person, hair has always been the most difficult thing to have a selection made because it's not just a matter of using the tools or the masks, right? So this is why I'm going to show you how to make some more advanced selections now, just quickly to recap this part. To do that, we're going to go under the select menu. Okay, instead of using the tools like we've had in the past, quick masking, we're not even going to use the pen tool because you're not going to use the pen tool when it comes to like organic stuff or hair and stuff. What you want to do in this case, you have a clearly identified subject here, the person, and you have a clear background. Photoshop AI capabilities are quite advanced to recognize this. So when you go to select and you go to subject, it'll work in most cases if you do have a clear distinction between the two, as we have in this example. If I do select subject, Photoshop will just miraculously make a selection on the subject right here. All right. If it doesn't, you can always hit Q and go to quick mask mode and just fix it. Another thing I wanted to share with you was under the select menu. Okay. You could use this other option that got released not too long ago. These are like newer methods. They're not traditional methods I've taught you earlier, but this is a really cool method I wanted to definitely share with you before we move forward. It's called select and mask. This only works if you have a selection established, like the one I have right now. So first I went to, select subject, and then I went to select and mask. So that's the step. First you select your subject or you make a selection period, and then you do this option. And Photoshop is taking mask to the new level. New level meaning this is a whole kind of like a window by itself. Notice how it looks different than Photoshop. It's got different tools. All right. It
This
does have,
is
yeah, it does have different background views as well. Like by default has like a black overlay. You do have the marching ants. You do have the onion skin. So you can change different backgrounds. And the purpose for this is to perfect your selection. As I mentioned earlier, hair is the most difficult thing to select. So if I zoom in really carefully, you can see how the hair is selected. What I like to do now is emphasize some of these areas. I did comment on some of your projects from the previous one, that some of your selections needed to be adjusted. I mean, I couldn't show you everything, but this would have definitely helped you. And going forward, I hope this helps you as well. The tools are here. By default, this is called the quick selection tool. So if you simply just use this tool, it's going to select other parts. So be careful not to do that. So don't use that tool rather than the refine edge tool. This is the second one from the bottom. This one really kind of cleans up your selections like this. So if you do think it's picking up a little too much or too little, you can definitely apply this and refine the edges of your selections. Works really well with hair. Now, let's say you did a little too much. Let's say I went a little too heavy here. You can bring things back by holding the Option key. The Option key brings back some of the pixels that you haven't perceived, so you can have more control of the actual edge feathering selections. There's a more of a direct tool, like the brush tool. This one's really, really solid. So this one, like either you bring things back, or if you hold Option, you take things away. It's like using your standard masking. So I would restrain from that tool in this case. I would just stick with this one. This is the most fundamental, useful tool when it comes to this technique, the refine edge tool. So just stick with that one and you're good to go. The other ones are just basic selection tools too. You do have some tweaks and sliders on the right to control some of the things like the radius, smoothness, and feather. I hardly get into this unless I need to. I just simply go with what I see. And when I'm happy with this, and I change my background to black, you have different ways to perceive the selection. These are just settings. Doesn't matter what you select, it's just a preference. As soon as you click OK, the selection is formed. Okay. And then you can just use the selection to, copy and paste, extract the background, do all kinds of nice things. All right. So that's one thing I wanted to share with you before we move forward. I'm going to put this one away. I did notice someone speak in the background. So if you have a question, please let me know. I'm just going to quickly come back and visit your screen for a second. So let me know if you have any questions. Right. All right. So let me come back here for a second. I like to do like a mic check or a video check, making sure I'm still here. Where's Teams? There we go. Are we still there, everyone? Everyone still good?
Yeah,
Can you?
I'm good.
You're good. Okay. All right. I know I heard someone, and I know I was in the middle of talking. I don't mind you guys interrupting me and speaking out. That's fine. Kind of wait for a pause or just let me know. Okay, that's fine. Either way, I want to make sure everyone is accounted for. Good. Okay. So the next thing, there's another image of this this girl drinking a smoothie. For this one, the purpose was to show you some more advanced quick masking techniques. So I wanted to also get this out of the way to show you. So I'm going to right click, open with Photoshop. Okay, and I know we discussed other ways to select. In this case, we did, remember the color range for the beach? So in this case, I'm going to do select color range. Okay, the same method I used last week. But I wanted to share with you this other, instead of doing like with the airbrush and you select different colors on the image, you could specify skin tones. And skin tones does use an AI integrated process of determining what's the skin, depending on the person's color and the background and stuff like that. It's not perfect, but I'm going to show you how to perfect it. So here's the skin tones. I'm going to click OK. Notice how it's selecting more than the skin tones, right? With this, I'm also going to press Q for quick mask mode. So you can see how you can see the selection this way. More so, I'm going to go to the adjustment layers and enhance the, let me just go to my properties here, scroll down, and I'm going to do I'll stick with the vibrance filter. Okay, so this is the vibrance adjustment. You click on that. It creates an actual adjustment layer on top of our original layer. And what I wanted to share with you is how to control this. Because from a visual perspective, you just, okay, what's this doing? Well, you can increase the vibrance, the saturation, you can kind of see how it makes a difference. But I don't want to affect anything else. It's picking up the smoothie, which has a reddish tone to it, like the skin pigment color, and it's got the red in there. That's why it's picking everything up. So to control this more on the target, as opposed to the other elements that might be, not included, what you want to do is this. You click on this thumbnail, okay? You hold Option and you click. When you click Option, you're switching between this beautiful black and white mode and the color mode. This gives you ultimate control. So these are shortcuts that I'm mentioning that are not in textbooks and other areas unless you look for them. So when you hold Option or alt click on this thumbnail, once you apply the selection with the adjustment layer, you can then take a brush, okay? Make a big brush size like this, big brush. Press X, bring the black in the foreground color instead of the white, X, which is the colors, right? And I'm going to just simply subtract all the other parts that I don't want to affect on my adjustment layer. Things like the hair and the smoothie and everything else, right? So I can just kind of do this, right? Just clean it up a little bit. I can also use a selection method, right? So let's just say I think I did a little too much. There was other parts that were. So let's just say I do this. I'm like, oops, I kind of went a little over here. Well, if you hold Option, okay, sorry, not Option. If you press, let me press D for default here, right? If you press X, you're bringing the black on the foreground color. If you press X again, it's the white. So you can definitely control parts that you deleted by accident. Okay, so you can definitely do that. All right, so black and white controls your areas. All right, so just be careful not to do a little too much. So that's how you can control ultimate control with the masks. When you're done, I'm going to hold Option click, going back to the actual image, and you can see the difference. It's only now capturing the skin and not the smoothie and other parts that I don't want because I have ultimate control on this vibrance filter on top of my image. Okay, so now we'll go here, go back to the effect. Don't forget, this is the thumbnail. This is the mask of the thumbnail. This is the actual vibrance adjustment layer. And then from that, you can definitely increase your, I'm gonna do like an overkill. You can see here how I'm exaggerating on purpose, but you can see how it's affecting that, okay? All right, so one takeaway here is selecting skin tones And two is having ultimate control on these adjustment layers. I know a lot of you use adjustment layers in your other projects, and I was really happy to see all of you do these things, but don't overdo it. Some of you use like 10 or 15 different layers, like merge them together or amalgamate them somehow, because you don't want to have too many layers hanging around. Not only increases your file size, but it just makes your file that much more messy to deal with. All right, so let's go ahead and put this one away then. All right, don't save. And that was the two little parts I wanted to quickly share with you before moving forward. All right, let's get now to the lesson for today. So today is the web lesson. We're going to start officially right now. So this and next week we should be able to cover these segments here. And the week after next week we'll get into some other web stuff, and then we're going to get into the motion design, and then we're going to wrap it up. So we got 4 weeks left till the end of the semester, or 4 classes after this one, and we should be in good shape. All right, so click on this web image sources folder. It's like a zip file, so it'll download your sources on your desktop in this case. I'm also going to download the Photoshop wireframe example file. Okay, so just do both of those. I'm going to close this folder down. This is module 10 and 11. All right, so there's the files here. This is like a wireframe of a website, right? I know it's a simple wireframe, but this can go a long way because most websites are kind of built this way. And you can see how there's the header, the main menu, the nav bar, some of the images, there's columns, rows, there's images and text, there's a footer down here. This is for like some kind of banner that we're going to use. So all this we can make and actually, we can design it in various programs. Some other students, I remember, even in Illustrator, you can make like a wireframe, like a grayscale wireframe before you get into the full rendered version. So that's also an important part of the build-up process to create like an actual wireframe, right? To do a wireframe is important, which I'm going to show you how to do before we get to this point here. The image sources are included in this folder. So if you just extract that one, you'll see the image folder here, sources. This will just supplement some of our design sources that we're going to use to create this. All right. Now, you're also, I'm going to talk about your final project is for you guys to create an actual website prototype design. This will segue for the next semester when I do have you for the UX UI class. You're going to be doing a lot of prototypes with me from XD to Figma. Figma was a new addition to the course we just added. And you're going to be creating mobile prototypes and desktop prototypes. So I'm going to save a lot of the good stuff for next semester, but I do want to make sure I show you the Photoshop parts this semester because it's a Photoshop class. So we're going to use these images here for examples. This is like a picture of a texture, like a pattern. And this is a picture of some shoes, lots of shoes and sneakers here. This is like some kind of a banner or an ad. Some more sneakers and shoes, right? A picture of a background design. All right, so this is just some images, just like a personal profile picture, right? So we're going to use these image sources to build this prototype. And I think that's the only sources for now until we get some other things coming up. All right, so let's go ahead and, I mean, even if I show you like, let's look at Amazon, for example. All right, you can see here how Amazon looks like a nice website. I'm just gonna go and log out for a second. Just so I can get a basic Amazon default view here. Okay, so it's spring sale. So you can see here how you have like the menus, a lot of these sections that are organized. My monitor is not the biggest. I know if I show this in the big screen, the whole point is I wanted to show you the end dimensions. So if I zoom out, Command minus, you can see here how the website, it kind of goes in a certain width. It doesn't pass that. So if we measure this width from left to right, we're looking at no longer than 1500 pixels. Okay, and this is what's important for us to address because most of these websites have a fixed limited width. Okay, I'm going to go back to full view. But if I do hit Command Shift 4 on the Mac, or if you just take my word for it and you measure it other ways, you can start from here all the way to there. I'm just dragging the mouse, and you can see how it's 1498. Look, 1500 pixels exactly. That's what the width is for the website. Most websites do carry this type of width. There's a common width, there's a maximum width, a minimum width. I'm sure you're doing this in HTML with the other class already, with the web class, and you're doing some HTML. The good thing is we're not going to do any HTML here. As you know, most of these websites, for you to upload them, they got to have HTML. If you go to view page source, for example, look at Amazon's website. It's got so much code, right? How much code? A lot. Right? Let's do the line wrap for a second. Right? I'm showing you Amazon because it's the most profitable, website in the world right now. It's like worth trillions of dollars. But this is what the code entails for it to deliver such a powerful platform of selling online merchandise. And look, I'm at the 400 mark here. So if I keep going down, 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 you don't have to worry about any of this stuff. I know you're like, let me just quickly show you how stuff you're learning is important. You still have a head tag, you still have the HTML, and you have the script, okay? And then you have the actual, let me see the body tag here. So script that still. More style sheets, a lot of style sheets, of course, to make the website function nicely. So there's your title, okay? Amazon, low prices, fast shipping, millions of items. That means if you roll over here, that's exactly what you'll see, right? That's what the title helps the search engines find the website, so it's important. And finally, you have like the body tag, right? So there's the body. So the body class, and there's the head ending. So basically, all the anatomy of the website that you're learning is the same. Okay, it functions the same on any website. Doesn't matter how big or small the website is, it's the same structure. It's built in HTML, the hypertext markup language, and it's got the CSS on the styling side. To have more functionality, it's using like JavaScript and some PHP and some other advanced, language models for the internet. And look at this, 2,400. That's how many lines of code this website has. Just to lighten things up a little bit, at the end of the day, even these guys that code the websites have some fun because at the very bottom of Amazon's website, I don't know if you ever done this before. You're really bored one day, just do what I do and look at the bottom of websites. I'm just kidding. But yeah, there's a cat, there's a duck that meows. Okay, that's basically how funny these guys have. This is a comment tag, and they put a little ducky that meows for fun at the bottom of the page. All right, so even these guys have some sanity just to kind of keep them going. Okay, so that's line 2,426. All right, so why am I showing you this is because you want to understand the back end as well as the front end of the website, because that obviously supports this. And I know you're learning HTML with Felice in the web class. So my job is now to show you how to do something in Photoshop and transform that into HTML. And not that I'm going to show you in HTML. I'm not going to, take over, Felice's teachings there, but I will show you how to work with some of the code that you're working with already and how can Photoshop produce sources, okay, or assets, I should say, web assets for your HTML. And Photoshop can do just that. All right, so this is how, if we can actually design an Amazon website, it just takes a lot of details and planning. We'll keep it more simple for now, but if you look at it, all these numbers are divisible by a common denominator. So you see something like 4 or 3, or you'll see maybe 2, maybe 1. You'll never see like 5, okay, because 5 doesn't go into 12. So if you notice, the common denominator is 12, and where I'm going with this is we're going to create 12 columns, because see, 4 goes into 12 3 times, right? Or 4 times 3 is 12, right? So that's why it's 12 there. There's 4 boxes here. This is like a lengthy one. Even here, there's like 6. 6 times 2 is 12. This is a big long one, okay? There's another 4 here. 4 times 3 is 12, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't matter how expanded or complicated the website is, the design structure is pretty much the same, okay? So if I show you some just to show you some web wireframes. Web wireframes. You can see what I'm talking about when it comes to the design. And this is what a lot of them look like. Some of them are very simple, right? Like this is what a wireframe basically is simple, like a mobile version. You got your tablet and you got your desktop versions. You got three different versions of the wireframe. We'll do a lot of this stuff next semester, more in detail. You will learn UX first, then we'll get into UI. We're going to learn XD and Figma. I'm already answering some of your questions about next semester. You guys, some of you are eager to do that stuff. That's great. This is what wireframes look like. They're very simple. Okay. Some of them are sketched. Okay. And converted into websites. Here's another wireframe. Very simple. To show you something more profound, here's a real wireframe. This is CNN, the news network website, because that's obviously a pretty popular platform. And this is how the wireframe was built before the website. See, wireframe communicates a very strong message. It communicates where the images are going to go, what the videos will go, placement holders, headers, text, graphics, logos, footers, all that stuff is composed into this. Let me just save this here. It's going to copy the image. Let me just save it actually. Onto the desktop. Right. So you can see how the left represents the fully rendered finished version of the website. The right represents the wireframe. Like you don't just build a website. You got to have a blueprint. You got to have a plan. There's a house beside me where I live right now. It's getting torn down. Like literally, the house beside mine is flat. There's a whole big hole in the ground, and the developer is building a new house. So basically, for them, they can't do that without a plan. Just like you can't build a website without a plan, right? I mean, you can definitely code and start playing around and start putting stuff everywhere, and eventually you end up with something. But if you're doing a professional website with a client and a budget and everything else, you have to do an actual wireframe. You have to consult the client and obviously meet their demands. They're going to tell you, hey, we want to, put the top news at the front, at the top of the web page. We want to put the main menu, the main logo. You're going to have to give them ideas where it's going to be placed. And then when that's orchestrated, then you put the real content here, which you can see here, some images, logos, menus, and search bars and stuff, right? So somebody has to do this, and that job would be yours. And then when it comes to programming, you might not be good at HTML, or you might not be a developer. You're just a designer. That's fine too. You can pretty much take the design, and once that's approved, you get the development team to build a website. So it's like a two-stage or three-stage process. And some more steps in between, of course, but I'm just generalizing the main criteria. All right. So now that you kind of see the overview here of where I'm going with this, I wanted to dive into how Photoshop can play a key role into building these wireframes, whether it's something simple or something more complicated, the job needs to be done. All right, so here we have another example of another website wireframe. These are like huge websites, right? Like the New York Times, another popular news anchor or news website platform. This one is another one here called Open Mic. It's a YouTube thing, the YouTube channel, right? And there's all kinds of other examples here, like The Guardian and other websites. You can look for this stuff online, right? But again, it comes down to the simple wireframe of the mechanics of how the website's going to be built. And this is what I want to not, you know, um, kind of skip or go too fast over, because these boxes that you're looking at are very important, right? So you understand how to build them and why would you build these placement holders, all right? So without further ado, let's build like a basic wireframe in Photoshop, and then we're going to fill that wireframe with some real graphics, colors, and images, and that's the process of building this. I'll show you one of my websites that I've done here. I got a few platforms going. So one is my CanadianMadeProducts.ca. So this is my website. All right. So it's strictly for the Canadian market and Canadian small to medium-sized businesses, even large ventures for people that want to buy Canadian products. And I do have close to 4,000 members. Okay. So this is what people do. They sign up and they post their ads. They can, buy and sell products. They can, post blogs. They can join my platform and do all kinds of fun stuff, right? So this is what I have. I have a directory, and you can type a keyword and find this. I'm looking for a plumber, right? For example, I can type plumber, best plumber near me, and there's websites with plumbers that show up. So I do have a lot of, I mean, I've built this thing since, like it's been 4 or 5 years now. So it's building slowly. I do have languages as well. You can pick all these different languages. I got others I can apply, but these are just standard for now. So I do have a converter and all that kind of stuff. All right, and just maybe we'll redesign this website, and I'll use this as an example to build like a wireframe out of it. Now, did I build a wireframe before I built this website? Technically, no, because it was a platform that I used from what I was given to me, but I did have a plan in my color scheme. So I did kind of amalgamate both options. And yes, I did convert this into an app as well. So I do have an app for this website. It's not public, but I have to still publish it, but it's still in the works because it still has to be perfected. But the website's what's important now. If we're going to build something like this, let's say you're looking at any website or engineering something similar, you can start pretty much from anywhere. We can either do Amazon or we can do this one, doesn't matter. Um, the actual design is similar. The menu is always across this way, and the elements are here. And what differentiates it, of course, is the colors, the graphics, the images, and all the styling that takes place. That's what makes the website. All right, so how do we produce a wireframe? Let's say this was something that we want to build, but we have no idea. Pretend this doesn't even exist right now. So how do we build this wireframe? Well, we start with Photoshop or Illustrator. Okay, so we're going to use any design program. We're going to create a new file. We're going to go over to web because we're done with print. Okay, we've done print for the past 10 weeks. All right, we did the book cover, the poster, we did a lot of the print stuff, CMYK, high resolution, selections, all that stuff. Now we're going to switch it over to web. Okay, so from now on, we're going to build web files. All right, we're going to go with the web most common. You do have large, you do have medium, and all the other ones. This is more like Amazon's territory, but I like to go large, and that's because I like to work with the full maximum range of widths, and then I can work within that and choose like, let's say 1500 pixels within the 1920. So I like to go with the large format. And just to kind of give you a little bit of history of sizing, I remember when I first did a website back in, the early 2000s, the width was like 800 pixels because back then resolution was different and the internet looked different. So it's not like the websites you see today. But things got more interesting as the years went on. I remember when I first started teaching, I was teaching programs like Flash, Macromedia Director, and we did some really cool, powerful, interactive type of platforms and websites. Portfolios of students looked stunning, different themes. I was telling that to my students the other day. When Flash got knocked off the shelf, basically, Adobe and other programs kind of didn't like the plugins. Now it's more like HTML5, and with some coding and JavaScripts and stuff, websites look okay and interactive, but not the way we did things back in the day. It was way more immersive with animations and stuff, and I just don't see that anymore. So I think with time things will come back, like just how things go with technology. And yeah, it was just a nice creative time when we did this stuff. Even dating myself here, like 15, 20 years ago is when I started this stuff, right? So sizing was different. It was like 800, 600 pixels, right? So now with time, of course, and video cards and better processors and better computers, things get bigger. Look at the TVs. You got 4K now, 2K, 4K, 8K. Everything increases in pixels and dimensions. So, the more pixels you add, the more depth you got with pixels and resolution. Even your phones, the megapixels always increase. The size of the phone, smaller, bigger, flip phones, Blackberries, smartphones. Smartphones are only like, 10 to 15 years old. 10 years ago, smartphones were just starting to get popular with most people. Not everyone had a smartphone 10 years ago, right? So, things change every time. So that's why we have to consider the change and work accordingly. So basically, let's go with the largest one and we'll work with this size within it and build what we have to do. Because we're building websites and other things now, I will enable the artboard option to be on. However, if you're building one page, you don't really have to. You can just stick with one, but I'll leave it on just for now so you can see what it does, because I don't think I explained the artboard just yet. The resolution is always 72, because whatever you do for social media, video, YouTube, anything, PowerPoint presentation, anything that's delivered on the monitor on the screen is a 72 DPI preset. So just stick with 72. And this is what's important. The sizing is done in pixels. So we don't measure things in inches. For web, we stick with pixels. Megapixels is what determines the dimension. And 1920 1080 is also a good size because that's the same one that I use for my digital screen marketing company that I also have, that established this business that has all these, these screens that you see at the restaurants and stuff, and that there's advertising. So when you see these 1920 by 1080 pixel screens, your television, this is a perfect resolution for that also. So 1920 1080p. At 72 DPI RGB color mode. We're going to click the create button, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, let's just say you want to make this a little bigger. I'm going to click on the move tool, okay? And click on the artboard. Notice how it switches between the artboard tool and the move tool because they're both in the same area. The artboard tool lets you stretch the artboard longer. So in case the website does proceed lengthwise, which usually does, you can always increase it longer this way or that way. The plus buttons that you see create additional artboards. So if I was to, I think I accidentally clicked on this one here. If I was to intentionally, I'm going to zoom out for a second, click on this plus sign here. I'm basically going to replicate 3 different pages for my website. Okay, so I'm going to press Command Z, Command Z. If I go this way, and then I go that way, and then this way, now I made like a 4-up artboard setup. In Illustrator is different because you have to literally use the artboard tool and draw separate artboards. In Photoshop, it's a little more, I guess, constrained this way. Yeah, you could make an artboard out of the blue like this as well. Yes, you can kind of do whatever you want. You can resize it and do whatever. So it does have both capabilities, right? But just because we want to start with one for now, I'm going to delete the other 4 or 5 artboards and just stick with this one. All right. And that's what artboards are good for. But if you're doing like a one-page design, I find artboards a little annoying. So I like to like disable them sometimes. Otherwise, you have to just kind of keep mindful of what you select and make sure you don't accidentally increase the size and stuff. So you can always switch it between flattening the artboard into a layer or just working with artboards only if you do more than one. So today we're doing one artboard. So I don't think there's a need to have an artboard if it's only one. If it's multiple artboards, then I'll have the reason to have an artboard. And some might just prefer artboards for whatever reason. That's fine too. But I just want to show you both examples. So I showed you artboard, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to convert the artboard to a smart object, basically. I think I labeled it by accident. Or I can just go to merge group, right? Or I can just flatten the layer. So I can go to layer, flatten image. Okay. All that stuff gets rid of the artboard. Maybe this is the best one because it just makes it flat. And yes, the canvas is still, let's change this to pixels because it's in inches now. So one other way to control units is if you press Command R or Control R, the keyboard, you can then right click on the ruler and change it to the right units. In this case, it's pixels. So now I have the dimensions in pixels. I'm going to make this 1920 by 1920. Sure. Proceed. I just resized my artboard of my document. So I can do it without even artboards. I can control this whole thing here. I can also go to image size and control it this way as well. Okay. I can also go to image canvas size and do it this way also. So there's more ways to control these artboards and working canvases. Okay. So I just showed you like 4 or 5 methods, not to confuse you, but to show you the actual flexible ways of dealing with it. All right, so now what? Well, now we're gonna start building this prototype. So let's say we pick a website like this one, or maybe even we can do Amazon if you like. Let's do Amazon. I like to do something more fresh here. So let's go to Amazon, right? If another website in mind, that's fine. We'll do an Amazon wireframe. Okay, so let's say a client comes up to us and says, "Hey, we want to create a Shopify website, but it's gonna be like Amazon. It's gonna sell products, and we need you to design this experience. So your job now is to design this prototype first. You do the wireframe, and then you include the colors and the graphics to go with it. So we're looking at this example here. Amazon's our competitor. We want to build a website that captures the same type of platform, but different. It'll be different with the way we're gonna maybe perhaps move the logos around, the search bars, and other things. So let's just copy it first, and then we'll whatever change it after. So to do that, we'll start with the top here. This is like a big header bar. We're not gonna copy all these little things because that'll take like 4 hours. I'm just gonna keep it more simple, but I am gonna get some of the ideas that are here. I will perhaps integrate a search bar. Okay. I will have a language option. Okay. I will have a sign-in option, maybe a shopping cart. I will have the logo and some other things. So better yet, why don't we do a screen capture? Command Shift 4. I can definitely do this. Okay, and capture that. If I scroll down, I can see four more, columns and um, another row with four columns, basically, right? All right. And here's my screen capture of my plan. And again, we're not copying stuff. There's nothing you can reinvent these days. Everything's been done. The trick now I tell my other students is listen, go with what works and make it better. Okay. You're not going to reinvent the wheel. Everything's been thought of and done already. Just a matter of making it work for what it's supposed to do, make it functional, make it feasible, and make your client happy, basically, right? Or your team happy, whoever you're working for. All right. So that's why we're picking Amazon here as an example. And we're going to just basically create these basic rules here, right? So here we have the canvas. I'm going to right away convert this into a 12 column layout setup. This is why I like Photoshop, because Illustrator doesn't have this capability. And let me show you what I mean by that. Like back in the day, we used to, let's go back to the move tool. We would create like the guides. So I would, let's say, calculate if this is 1920 and I want to make a website like Amazon, which is 1500 pixels. If you subtract 1920 or 1500 from 1920, what do you get? Okay, you get, so 1920 minus 1500. So it's like 420 pixels, right? For 420, so that means if we split that in half, it's 210 pixels. So I would go 210 pixels from here. I would go 210 pixels from here, and I'm just gonna measure it right now. I can get a calculator. I can do the math, and then this area, let's call these margins, will be the 12 columns that we're gonna create to split up the website. So then I would go ahead and do, let's say, here's the first column, and there's a little bit of a space, okay, like the gutter between the next one. Here's the second column, and here's the gutter again. Here's the third column, okay, here's the gutter again. This is gonna be like a 6 column website to where I'm going right now, right? But you get my idea. And this is really not accurate, and it's not gonna work because I'm eyeballing it really, right? So let me show you how to do this in a more systematic fashion, or a way that works. And Photoshop with popular demand integrate this technique, because this will take us like an hour to set up. Just the guides alone will take you like an hour, never mind the other things. So what we would do then is do this and save a template and use it for future websites, which makes sense. So let me show you how to do this a lot faster and easier with the new guide layout setup in Photoshop. So first I'll go to view, guides, and I'm going to clear the guides, okay, because I'm not going to do it that way anymore. Rather than that way, because this was introduced like years ago, so it was a cool addition to the software. We're gonna go to view, guides, okay, and you're gonna go to here what's called new guide layout. This is how we're going to control the 12 column guide layout for design. Okay. And the preset set to custom, I'm going to go with 12 column. Okay. That's the pop. There's more columns if you want to for 24, for some more intricate designs, but 12 is the one, the most popular one, because 12 is a great common denominator. Okay. Because if you divide 12, it goes into 4, 3, 6, 2, 12, 1. Okay. So it's got a lot of numbers that go into 12. So you don't want to do like 10 because it doesn't make sense. So Amazon uses 12 because you can see it's like 444, 2 and 2, and stuff like that. The gutter will be, I kind of like the default. I'll leave it at 20. I'll leave this at 12. The margins, though, I will select the margins. So we'll hit the margin here. The top margin, I'm going to make it, maybe I'll do 50 pixels. Okay. The bottom, it's the footer. So I'll do like maybe, I don't know, 25, right? And left and right, I will do 100. Okay, 100, 100. This way, well, if we do Amazon's width, which is, 1500 pixels, then we'll do the 210 by 210. So it's perfectly set up like this. So this is your margins, and this is your columns, your live area in here. All right. So then if that's the case, let me just quickly get a calculator out here. Nothing like better than doing math on a Wednesday evening, right? So 1920, right? Minus 1500 is 420 pixels. Divided by 2, right? Equals 210. Hence why I picked the left and the right margin to be 210, because if you add those two, it adds up to 420. And 420 minus 1920 is 1500 pixels. And if I measured Amazon's dimensions, it's close to, if not exactly, 1500 pixels. Yeah, let's open this up to verify that. Because one thing is measuring it, one thing is screen capturing it and opening it up in Photoshop. Uh, Once you set this up, well, what's my color here? I'll leave it grayscale. I like the gray there. I'm gonna click OK. You can also do rows, by the way. I don't like to do rows. Rows are established as you build the website. Columns is what's more important, because the height of the website could be infinite. It's like a bottomless pit. It's like you scrolling through your social media. It always goes on and on and on, right? But the width is always fixed. This is why we take care of that. I'm gonna hit the OK button, and there's Amazon screen capture. I'm just gonna hit image size, and because of my resolution, it's double. It's 3000 instead of 1500 pixels because the resolution is 144. If I make this 72, if I match the resolution to the screen, it is 1500 pixels. It's 1509 because if you notice, I do have some white space here that I wasn't too careful of. So 1500, my guess was pretty accurate, and that's why we're kind of doing that as the norm, because most websites do copy the same kind of width style. All right, so that's good. We made this, and let's measure this again here just by making a selection. Watch this, making a selection. Look at this, 1496, 1500 pixels. There you go, right? 1504. No, it should be 1500. Or maybe because I have the 1920. Yeah, maybe I have some, I'm off. Like, if you're off by like honestly, 5 to 10 pixels, it's okay. No one's gonna measure websites the way we are. I'm just getting technical to show you why this is important. As far as you being off by 100 pixels, even if your website is, let's say, 1300 pixels, it's still fine. Because most of these websites, they all have different widths, if you notice, when you surf the internet, right? Even mobile apps, whether they look good on a tablet or a phone. There's different phone sizes now. Like, how do you make everyone happy? It's almost impossible. Some people use Android, some people use iPhones, some people use other smartphones. Some phones are big, some phones are small. The resolution is displayed differently. All you can do is, kind of do the average size and make most people happy. So this is why we're doing this way. All right, let's keep going forward here. So we're gonna basically design a wireframe that matches somewhat similar to this one. So we're gonna start with the nav bar on top. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a rectangle tool. Yes, right here, rectangle tool. So as I covered the pen tool last week and how important vector tools are in Photoshop, to say the least, it's the same thing when you build prototypes or wireframes in here. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool. I'll pick a different color, maybe like a grayscale. I like using the grayscale colors. Look, I can see all of them here. So pick like a mid-range grayscale color. I'll make sure this is a shape, not a path, not pixels, but a shape, because shapes can be controlled and altered. So I'm just going to drag a shape all the way here. But yeah, view will be also snap to guides. I want this to snap to the guides so it sticks. You can also snap to layers as well. I like these two options because this way the snap will be more accurately placed when I create my objects. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click here, click and drag the mouse, and basically do this. And maybe the height will be 200 pixels. And if you want to make it more accurate, you could literally type here 200 pixels. So it's 1500 by 200 pixels, the perfect width for the header. Like I said, I'm not going to copy this entirely, but I'll make it pretty similar to what I want it to look like. All right, the other part is going to be like the navigation. So we'll create a separate bar for that. I'll go back to this rectangle tool. I'm going to go ahead and create. Be careful because if you click the rectangle tool and you catch the corner, it assumes that you want to resize the exact one. So rather than catching it here, I would go down here somewhere and just draw another rectangle like this. And then you can change the color of this one to something else, perhaps a lighter color. And then with the move tool, you can move this up all the way here to match its position. And this can be maybe the navigation. The width is 1500. The height, perhaps I want to maybe make it 80 pixels. I like to use even numbers. I'm not going to make it like 83. Like, how do you work with that? And I don't want to have to do any weird math. I want to keep even numbers like fives and tens and 20s. So I like to keep it simple. All right, so I do have some kind of a menu, um, the header, the nav bar. Next, I'll create like a hero banner here, so that'll be a nice portion of my width. I'll go back to the rectangle tool, and again, just stay away from that. Maybe if you want to not always having this selected, what you can do is also deselect. See the layers here on the right? Click on the bottom here to deselect. So when you go here, it won't interfere with your selection. All right, this will be, the height will be 500 pixels. All right. I'll change the color as well to something else. Maybe this will be even darker in the middle somewhere. Right. Notice I'm sticking with grayscale. Another important thing is you don't want the clients to get distracted with colors. First, you're working with elements of design. Okay. So then you tell them, this is how the website will look like based on these grayscale attributes. And then you introduce color, images, graphics, and everything else, as we're going to do here with this one. All right, so then we have that. Then we have these 4 columns. We can do 3, 4, as many as we like. So since we're doing Amazon, I will create the 4. Again, deselect everything. Let me just double click here to have this layers. We'll also create layer groups for this. So if these 2 layers are my, nav bar navigation, I'm just going to select these 2 layers, Command or Control G. I'm going to call this header. All right. This will become like whoops, I think I put the wrong one. Let me drag this one in here as well. So that's the header. This is I can also make that part of the header. That's fine. This can be the hero banner that's part of the header. I mean, there's no real rules to this as long as you don't put the footer in there and stuff like that. But sometimes this can pass for the header because this main promotion that you're doing here could be like a banner, an animation or something. You can call it body or main or something else, but I like to keep it like the header here, right? And I'll make this the body down here. So let's go ahead and do that. Deselect. Maybe before we move forward, you can create another group down here, and this could be called the body, right? And the body will be dragged over here, and the body will contain the other parts of the website. I think I'm going to make this a little smaller though, just to keep it within the size. I pressed Command T, okay, Control T. I'm going to make this 320 pixels, okay? There. And the body's going to have those 4 sections. Could be images, products that we're selling. For that, I'll use and again, that's why I have the 4. That's why I have the 12 column, um, 12 column guide setup. Because if I do 4, right, all I have to do now is count 3 columns. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, and these will be 300 pixels, 301. Let me just make it exactly 300. I like even numbers, like I said earlier. So 300 pixels. The color is going to be dark like that. I can even make these have a little space too. So 1, 2, 3, right? Watch this. Option, drag, shift. Here's the second one. So 3 and 3 is 6. Option, drag, shift. And 3 is 9. And option, drag, shift. And 3, that's 12. Now you see where I'm going with this, right? This is why it's important that you do a 12 column guide setup to build a website. All right. So then this will be the body section. I can then continue this with other type of design setups. Let's do another one. This time I'll do 2 and 2. Okay, so I'm going to do one here. And this one's going to be, to get the colors, you have to if you double click sometimes, you can change it this way. Not that you want to do colors, but let's go to my appearance here. I'll change the fill color to something else. Ready? Go with this light blue, maybe even lighter, just to really kind of. Right, there we go. All right, just a different grayscale. Option, drag that over. Now I have 2 different areas that I can fill with. Either I put images in there, videos, text, whatever you want, right? All right, here I'll put like 3 just to demonstrate how this stuff works. I can even copy an existing one, option, drag, shift, okay? And I can definitely hit Command T, and I'll make this 3 columns. Sorry, 4 columns, because 4 times 3 is 12. So I'm going to do 3 here, and these 3, let me just double click, kind of mix all my layers here. A lot of layers I'm having. Yeah, so these 3, I'll change those colors also to something else, right? And lastly, I have like a footer or something down here. The footer is going to be another rectangle. It's going to go across all of them like that. Okay, and this can have like some backlinks. I can have like a sitemap and different things that helps the SEO, different parts of the website as well, right? And this can be also a different color. And yeah, you can also go like this and pick different grayscale colors from here. That's fine. All right. So from head to toe, this is what the website might look like. You can always, control widths, heights, and different variables. I like to save this as a template. So I'm going to go to File, Save As. And this will be Photoshop website wireframe. Example. My computer, save. Some people like to do this in Illustrator. I don't blame them because Illustrator is so much easier when it comes to creating boxes and layouts and stuff. Step and repeat, auto align, that kind of stuff. But Photoshop also has its advantages. And the advantage here is that actually you can set up the 12 columns nice and easy within the auto layout. You definitely can draw boxes here as well. You can constrain them within the right positioning with the guides and things like that. I mean, you can still do either or in every program. Okay. It comes down to a preference and what tools you prefer to use. Right. Now, this is all in the body. Right. So you can see here I have a body section. This is the footer. So I'm going to put this in a separate just to keep it consistent. This will be called the footer. And now I have the anatomy of a website. So I have the footer on the bottom here. I have the footer, I got the body, and I have the header, all good to go. The background can be deleted. I can have a transparent background. I can have an image, but I'll leave it alone just for like to have something there. I'm gonna go to panel options just to keep my thumbnails in the medium format, just to have more space to control my stuff. Right, let's hit another save. And yes, I took it further than the Amazon example I was presented by the client, and I'm gonna make this look like something more um, of the same type of design. All right. Okay. Any questions so far? I'm just hiding the guides just to show you what this looks like. Okay. Because the next part now entails us putting some content here, right? Because if you show this to someone, they'll be like, oh, that's kind of interesting. It looks like a design with a bunch of blocks. But wait till you start filling it in with content. You put pictures, you put text, you put videos, and you put other stuff. You make it look like an actual website. But if you squint your eyes, and if you look at this, let me just hit command here. If you squint your eyes and you look at this, you can see a nice symmetrical design. You can kind of envision where everything's going to be, right? And most websites follow this trend, this rule. It's a bunch of rectangles put together in a bigger rectangle, right? Everything is captured within the box design fundamental rule. Look at your monitor; it's a rectangle. Look at your TV. There's no oval shapes, right? Oval is more organic, whereas everything that's kind of rectangular is your screen. And based on that, you create the divisibles and the quadrants that fit into that design. Whether it's even here, you can have, other circles and other elements, but they're still within the rectangular placement. That's why we build things on what we're given, the rectangle. All right, so now let's take this to the next step, which is putting some of this content in there. I'm just going to double click on the properties, right? And for that, I'm going to, so let's say we want to dress this up a little more. We do come up here, make this a little bigger here. And we can introduce some text elements. So I'm going to lock these layers. I'm going to select all these three. I'm going to hit the lock button here. So I can't accidentally go ahead and put stuff in there. I also have the background locked. I'm going to create another group. And this is group one will be basically for all my labeling or content, which I'm going to label all these fields, what they do. Okay. Now, some of the more notable symbolic references to these, for text, we use like lines going across. For images, you use X's. For videos, there's like symbol like playheads and other things. So you can utilize those same symbols. Or you can just put like real content in there to represent that. So the labeling could be done all in here. I'm going to use the type tool. I'm going to click here, type header, or how about web banner? Okay, because a lot of websites make money by putting web banners, like promotions or advertising other services and companies. So maybe this can be a different color. That's a web banner. Sometimes web banners come in different sizes based on the marketing budget that you have, and Google sells a lot of these um, ads or AdWords and ad placements on websites. So if you type, let me open up a new tab actually. Web banner sizes, and you can see here some of them are the way they are. So there's like, letterboard size 728 by 90. These are fitted within different website schemes. All right. And this changes from as the years go by. So this is more like an older standard. But the newer websites have bigger sizes, some have smaller sizes. This is how banner sizes work. We're going to create a banner like in the next segment when we create an animation. You'll have an animated web banner. And this is how, people make income by doing this for the web, right? This is like people make a living doing this stuff. Whether it's like look how powerful and big the web has gotten in the past 20 years from social media. All the marketing budgets from companies now are kind of going in that funneling system of social media, YouTube, and all the marketing dollars is going there. Print is kind of not really dying, but it lost a lot of market value. Right now, it's more like the internet, of course, as you know, in the past, especially in the past 10 years, you're really engaged in that way. So this is where where we can kind of see what sizes they're available for us to base our designs on if that's required. But by doing a website that we're doing it here, we're kind of measuring with our measurements. There's no fixed rule. It doesn't have to be 320 by 50. Whatever fits within your scope. Okay. So all these sizes are different. All right, just wanted to show you that. So this could be anything. I mean, if we want to measure this, let's say we could go to the header. Okay, this is the top one here. Let's move this at the very top so we kind of have a nice organized system here. And this is that one. This is this one. Oh, yeah, I gotta unlock this first and then that one. So if we want to sell this banner size, we're literally going to put 1500 by 200 pixels. And that's a little too big for a banner. So you can kind of fit it within this area and then put in there with HTML and CSS. But that's basically what you size it up to be. Okay. You don't have to really put that in there, but just so you can communicate sizing and marketing different, um, size preferences for ads and stuff on websites. So I'm going to lock this up again. Okay. So web banner, this is going to be like the menu. So instead of me putting menu, why don't I like put a menu there? So I'm going to go ahead and put the more text. Oh, it's home, make it smaller, like a lot smaller. So web font sizes range from 16 to like 20 points, depending on the actual impact you're going to have on the interface. So that's all based on the purpose, right? So we're gonna stick to the websites here. This is 22. It's quite generous. You can even go hit double click, right? And do things like this: space, 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 shift, vertical divider, space, space, space. So it's always even. Okay. So I'm gonna have products, space, 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 a vertical divider, space, space, space. I can copy Amazon's menu and just type sell items, prime, new releases, deals, store. I can make up my own stuff if I want, right? There's a home button as well, music, electronics, fashion. So maybe I will maybe keep it more generic. Services, okay. Contact, music. Contact should be at the end, actually. I should have put it there. Fashion, frequently asked questions, right? So I just made up a menu based on the website. Your menu will vary, but this now I want it to be centered perfectly. So how do I center this? If you move the mouse accordingly, Photoshop will automatically kind of find there right there. There's the middle. It does have the smart guide, so it knows. But let's say you can't find it for whatever reason, you can't really center this. So how you center this is basically once it's selected here, you have the move tool selected, right? What you want to do is just press Command A, select all. Once the selection is applied, you can go up here and go like left, center, or right. And this goes for the whole page. So Photoshop does have alignment attributes, just like your other design programs. And the way you do it is by enabling a selection. And then you can control how to gauge your alignment that way. I go between 100 and 200. How do I do halfway? Well, at the bottom left corner here, I'm going to type in 150. So I get the best of both. Maybe that's a little too much. Maybe I'll do 120. Okay. There we go. So I can see it better. I can make my window bigger as well. Nice. So now we have our menu, we have a web banner, and this is something we can sell later. I'm sure the advertisers will like to maybe reserve this spot and we can put it on the website or whatever. This is our main, like a hero banner, marketing, promotion screen, maybe an image carousel, whatever it is, right? So we can have some other parts here. So for that, we can just put an X or whatever across. That's another way to implement these things. And here you have more images. I mean, I like to draw little X's in Illustrator. I don't like to do the X's in here, but you could, okay? But you get my idea, right? This is how this becomes like a wireframe. And it's all about the details and what you do with it. Um, so maybe let me just do an X for now so I can show you. So here's the line tool. Okay, Photoshop has a line tool. Yes, you can just go across like this. There's a big X. This is gonna be, I'll just use like a dark gray color. Maybe I'll stick with black. Okay. And I'll do another one. Right. And yes, you can control these with Photoshop does have an arrow tool, you can do a selection tool, or you can do a direct selection tool. Okay. So this way you can select the lines this way and you can move them around. Just be careful because there's like anchor points in here. So you have to kind of be careful how you control this. Another way is to actually select it with the move tool. Let me see if I can, maybe this tool's better. Right. Just use the black arrow tool, probably better. Okay, so you can control it that way. All right. Okay, so anyways, that's how you can communicate with your audience and tell your client, this is an image, this is text, this is a web banner. Let's put some other content over here. I'll draw a text box this time. Okay, so I'm going to draw a text box over here. And this is where the content can go. Perhaps Lorem Ipsum might be the right candidate for this. I don't know about this font though. It keeps giving me Arial. Let me go with like Euro style or something. Maybe I'll change it to Myriad or condensed. Right. I want capital letters all the time. Hmm. My caps lock is not on. Let me see here. I think by default I have the capitalized somewhere selected. So I just have to shut it off. Let's see where it is. Character. Oh, there we go. See this little thing here? This made all my type automatically capitalized, so it's all caps. So if I just shut it off, it's going to give me the normal, typography setting. So we'll go with Myriad Pro, just regular, okay, just to keep it nice and normal here. Alrighty. And of course, if I make this bigger or smaller, it'll accommodate that. All right. You can also do force justify under your paragraph attributes here. Okay, so you can control it that way. And this is your text. Okay, so you can kind of have a little blurb. Okay, this could be another image over here. Right, so another box could go in there. Perhaps I'm going to go ahead and draw another element. Ready? Put this away. appearance. There we go. All right. And, pretty much you invest some time to get this look like a somewhat of a website, but it's not really communicating much detail like fonts and colors and images and graphics. You're just suggesting to the client that, hey, this is the design, and we're going to basically put all these things in here. There might be some call to action here as well. So maybe I'll move this up a little bit, put this down. I'll put like a button here or something, like some call to action, and you can definitely do that. We'll do lots of buttons next semester, right? So for now, I'm just going to go, you know, click here. Click to whatever, to see more or to purchase or something like that. Call to action, very important. Maybe I'll do another little button here. And there's so many different ways of doing this, with wireframes and stuff now. You can also round the corners now. This is a new feature that came out from Illustrator, and you can apply it in Photoshop. You got to be in the rectangle tool, however, to control the rectangle settings. And once that's done, we're going to move this down here, and this could be all part of the actual wireframe as well. All right. Maybe this click here can be a different color as well. All right. So whichever way you want to build this, you can see how it's important to kind of do the details in the pudding, as they say, right? All right. So like again, I can spend 2 more hours and make this look like a real website. I just want to show you the different elements in the approach, and I hope I delivered that already by this example. Now I'm gonna take this into like a finished approach and put like real graphics and how to make it an actual website. Okay. So to do that next step, I'm gonna quickly do a file save, right? Make sure this is my labeling is done on top of my prototyping. So I got my header here, my elements, my body elements, the footer elements. This is the labeling elements. I can always replace this later with other elements, but don't forget this is just a basic rough prototype version. And when we do the real rendered version, a lot of the groups in here will be filled with actual real content and images and sources. All right. Um, so this is more like the other example I showed you, right? You see how this is done with even these boxes here like that. And they use the axis for images. Videos, you use like a little triangle for the play button that indicates a video. So video, video, video. Yeah, text, images, images. Okay, nothing really different than what we're doing, except the layout is different. Notice how they stuck to the 12 columns as well, because it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And things like that, right? If you see an odd number, it's because it's probably like a carousel, which means you can scroll left and right. So that's another way. The finished version kind of speaks for itself, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, things like that, right? Alrighty, so let's go take it to the next step now, because this is the first step. And let me just pause for a second and reflect on where we're going with this again. So going back to my Blackboard here. Right, so there's the Amazon website, and we can get some images after. Your main projects are done, okay? However, what you have left for the semester is your composite assignment. Now, the next composite assignment, if it's not introduced already, it will be very soon, maybe this week, or perhaps it was introduced last week. Your composite 2 will be for you to basically create. Are you guys doing the album art campaign? What are you guys doing for your composite 2 assignments? Just let me just go back to you for a second. Are you guys doing the album art? website? What are you guys doing for your composite two? Remember the composite one was the ads? Are you guys doing the album cover for the music band? What are you guys doing for your second composite?
Yeah, we're doing the album band
Okay, so was that introduced last week or this week?
last week.
Last week. Okay, good. So are you all picking albums already? Yeah. All right. So basically what I'm gonna have you do in Photoshop is to create a prototype for that album website that you're doing, and that'll help you build a real website in your HTML. Okay, so whatever the album is that you're choosing for your composite, you're going to build the website for this. So for the second composite assignment, you'll be demonstrating your Photoshop techniques learned in class to fulfill the objective of the overall final presentation. See the PDF for more details. So I want to see layer organization and management. I want to see image placement with the frame tool. This is a new feature that I'm going to show you in Photoshop. I'm also want to see how you generate image assets. This will help you make a website from Photoshop into HTML. And I want to see multiple artboards, minimum of 4, because you're going to have, the homepage about the band. You might have a page for their music. You can have a page for their tour or other pages for their maybe personal profile, biography, things like that. So minimum of 4 pages for this whole thing. If I open up the PDF, you will see the actual proper handout that we used to give to the students and just has more details. But please follow these main ones here because this reflects some of the more traditional stuff we expect from you. So layer masks, I want to see some transparency, some other tricks you've learned in Photoshop, various selection methods, of course, you use in Photoshop, generation of assets, which is indicated here, layer styles, if it's helpful, integrated in your design, complete mockup, including the home page along with navigation, etc. So mockup means building the website in Photoshop, and good luck and have fun, okay? So these are like the generic expectations, but this is the more specific stuff. Okay, so just refer to this and this, please. So this is due at the end of the semester. Okay, and it'll be my part of the um, grading when it comes to this composite assignment. And the same thing will help you with the other class because you're going to build a website in HTML. So you can take the same stuff that you're building here and apply it to that one because you'll know what to do. You'll say, hey, this image will go on the home page. This navigation can go on the top. So Photoshop can help you orchestrate the design planning before it's done. Now, ideally, I know you have everything do at the same time, but the whole point is for you to learn to practice this in theory. In reality, you're going to do this first and then do the website second. But we can't wait for you to do this first, wait like 3 weeks and then have another 3 weeks to do the website. It doesn't happen that way. So just please understand you're learning how to do these things, taking this course here at Humber. So we're just doing things at once because we're all designated to collect work from you at the allotted time. So this is why you're doing this and then that at the same time instead of doing this and that second. So try to time it if you can. I hope it's not too too much ahead of your schedule, but just so you learn how the process is, prototyping and then websites. We'll do more of this next semester, and the same thing will happen next semester. You're going to have your website too, and you're also doing a prototype for the website. So because you're doing it together, you're learning how to execute on both levels. Okay. All right. Any questions about this? This is due, let me just make sure, Wednesday, April 24th. I'm giving you till the very last day of class. So it's 1 month from today, which is the end of April. That's when the semester ends for you. Okay. And then you have a nice break. And then we come back here for the summer, right? You're going to have me for the summer for that one more class. All right. So if you don't have any questions about this, we can then start with the continue with the exercise because this is like your main project that's involved in this segment going forward, along with another assignment I'm going to give you. Okay, I'm going to give you that maybe next week or a week from now because that one is a simple one you'll do in class, and that's it. Okay, I'm not going to overwhelm you with too much stuff. I try to balance it out. So it's not overwhelming, but it's important because everything that you're doing in this class will help you demonstrate your stuff that you're learning in Photoshop. Having said that, there's one more thing here. Let me just quickly go on over the gradebook. So make sure you do the the clipping mask, okay? It's due today, okay? The clipping mask exercise, so please take care of that. That's something that I know most of you already handed it in, but that's something that we did last week with the streetcar and the TTC file. So, you have till midnight. So if you want to do it after we finish the lesson today, you can get it done, okay? I know I only have 15 of you that handed it in. I still see a few you missing, so make sure you catch up, okay? So after that, you have the composite assignment and the motion design. That's it. Just 2 more items. And we're good. Okay, let's get back to the program here. And we're going to go to Photoshop. And yes, show me the grayscale file, okay? Like, show me how you're going to utilize this. Like, make a grayscale file. I'm going to put this other little recommendation there. I'm not gonna make you to do a mobile conversion, so don't worry about that because that's a little too much. Then you have to do 2 projects, one desktop, one for mobile. But next semester, I will have you do. You're gonna work in a group setting with a group, and you're gonna create a mobile app for my next class next semester. So we're gonna use programs like Adobe XD, then we're gonna use Figma and other programs for you to make these nice prototypes. Okay, so for now, it's just a website. But do take this approach seriously, like do the wireframe of the grayscale and then produce this into a real looking website. So how would you make this into a real looking website? Depends on the client and the color scheme. We're gonna go ahead and create the colors to work for us here. There's other ways you can use colors. Where's the Adobe Colors Online? This is a cool little system. Adobe Color Wheel. I'm sure you guys have seen this. If you haven't, you can check it out now. There's many ways to apply the colors. All right, so you do have this, this nice little color scheme you can use. So monochromatic, you can pick from triad. You can do different type of color schemes. I like the triad because this is going to give me 3 main colors to choose from. And perhaps I'm going to maybe do something like this. I'll just to mix it up a little bit, right? I'll use these colors here. So you got the blues, the warm colors, I got the cool colors and everything else. Right? The reason I'm doing this is you get these hexacodes, and these hexacodes can be used for your colors in your template, right? Now your client might give you colors. You might have the red and black, okay, green and purple, whatever colors you are. You can use those colors, but this is a good way to kind of gauge.
तो दीदी कहीं बाहर है या आप ऊबर चला रहे हो दीदी भाई आपने ऊबर एक्सेप्ट कर ली
Sorry, I can't hear you. Say again.
फिर क्यों फिर पैसे दो लोगे आप किस पे दीदी से किस चीज के ऊबर के कोई अकाउंट तक है ना मैं फिर लूंगा अच्छा
I think you guys had the mic on for a second there, right? You guys are good. You have a question? Question there? All right. I'm gonna mute everyone just in case, right? Sometimes you accidentally hit the mic button and you can say stuff. All right. So you can pick colors that way. I'm just gonna use my own color scheme here. Photoshop has colors to choose from this way also. Okay. You do have swatches. Okay. You do have your colors here too. You can pick different colors from your swatch libraries. You got pastels, you have grayscales, you have CMYK, you have a lot of colors, right? It's just a matter of choosing the right colors for the right job. Okay. You also have the gradient sets as well, right? So I'm just going to go with some of these color schemes here. I'll start with the web banner first, right? So here's my web banner. I'm going to just turn off my layers here. I'm going to unlock all of these, okay? and click on the web banner here, okay? And simply double click on the web banner or just go to the properties. Click on the color fill here and go to my, I'll just go with the pastels for now, right? And do like a nice web banner type of color. There we go. A nice blue goes a long way, right? All right. Light blue. Perfect. Okay. My bar here, and again, I can choose colors based on my preference. I can use examples. The client's going to give you colors too, right? So this can be back again. I'm going to go here. There's my fill. I'm running out of real estate here. Let me double click on my swatches for a second. Double click on the properties. All right. Oh, because they're locked. There we go. I'm just going to unlock everything. The body. Unlock. The footer, I'll leave it locked. I guess I could have done this quicker, but I don't know. Maybe I accidentally clicked on the whole thing and just that's what happened. All right, so double click. All right, or you can just click on the properties here, the fill colors here, and you can pick any one of these colors that you have predetermined. All right, so this one I'm gonna maybe perhaps pick a different color. Whatever color scheme I'm going with here. I'm just gonna pick random colors, right? I'm gonna go with something like just maybe lighter, right? Just gonna go with that. This could be like an image. I'm gonna put an image there afterwards. Okay, so these other boxes, I'm just gonna color them for now. So I have some color options to choose from. So we're gonna go with this one and this one here. Oops, I'm picking random colors here. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Right, so the colors, I'll leave that up to you, okay? Because that's something obviously you're gonna have to determine, and based on different ways to strategize the color approach and the images that you're gonna be working with and stuff, you're gonna have to really, really take care of these things, right? I'm gonna go over here again, just pick different colors, right? Same thing with this rectangle here. And the footer is gonna be, do like a darker color here. The purple is fine. Right. Right. So colors, fonts, styles, you can definitely dress this up and make it look like, a more color-oriented design. And this, again, this information you can, for now, for the band, I would just stick with like 2, 3. Don't do like I'm doing like 5, 6 colors here. Don't do that. Just stick with like 3 colors. Most websites that you see do have, consistent color use, whether it's branding or logos and stuff. I just want to show you, various ways of applying color, but I would just keep it monochrome, maybe dual tone or some tritone colors. I would not go more than 3 colors per my theme. But you can see the option is there for you to do whatever you have to do. And that's how you do that. All right. So now 12 columns, we got the layout set up. We got the rules established. We have the widths, the heights, the boxes, the layouts. Everything's done except putting some real content. Okay. And for that, you have to obviously consider, grabbing your image sources. There's my boxes again. This is my labeling. So now it's time to make this look like a real website. I'm going to save this as another version. So I'm going to do save as. I'm going to call this website wireframe example, with color, added. So I'm going to save 2 copies. So this way we can record our progress and we can see how we came up from point A to point B, right? This one started with that. Now we're this one here. Okay, so then we're gonna add the images after, and then next week I'll show you how to convert these design elements and configurations into assets, real assets that you can use on a real website. So Photoshop is not just for design, but it's actually produce the necessary assets to build a website. Right? That's why it's very, it's a really cool and a fun time to use Photoshop and for the web, let's say, right? Because before a lot of the stuff was limited, and over time Photoshop became more powerful tool for like the web designers, right? Now you're still gonna make a website in HTML. I don't want to elude you from thinking, this is it. But if you're a designer, you're working for a big company, your job will be just to design. You're not going to code a website. That's developers do that. Now, should you know both? Yes. These days, employer wants to hire people that know, the more you know, the better. So you should know how to do an HTML website, and you should know how to do a design as well, because web design includes both. The back end is different. Developers use more hardcore languages. Like you become a JavaScript programmer, you learn PHP and some other more advanced languages to do backend. But in HTML, it's still considered front end design. Okay, HTML and CSS, it's not considered like backend. It's still like basic stuff, and you should know it. Okay, if you want to compete in this market, especially these days, right? All right, so then here we go. Let's now build these content placements. So for that one, I'm going to start with this folder that I gave you here, these image sources. So I'm going to use these images to fulfill these areas. So perhaps let me just get rid of my labeling system here, because honestly, I'm not going to use this. I don't need to use these labels anymore. That was just a temporary measure. Okay. Now I'm going to just take that off and use my real box elements and put real content in there. Okay. Um, Maybe this I'll leave alone, like the web banner. So I can maybe leave some of these things. So maybe this can stay. This one can stay. These lines will go, these two, okay? Everything else I think can stay. So I'll leave this alone, and I'm going to utilize the other stuff to put stuff in there. So for my rectangle here, that's this gray rectangle, I'm going to put like an image banner ad in there. So I'll use one of these images to fulfill that requirement. So let's see, maybe this one might look good, right? Perhaps, maybe this one, right? So let's go ahead and pick one, right? So it's a little too dark, I think, though. Sure. Well, let's use a nice, beautiful mountain landscape. Now, how do you do that? You drag and drop, okay? If you drag and drop the images, just drop the picture in here. You can also do file place. Okay, that's another way to place images. But just to show you the more fundamental, placement of images, you can resize it when you do it. You got to hold shift if you doesn't constrain. Sometimes it does it automatically, and then you place the image in the area that you want to place it to. Notice how it went bigger, a little larger than usual, and now I placed it there. Okay, I'm going to hide the guides because we already know how the guides are set up, and I'm going to place this image inside this rectangle. And the way I'm going to do that is the same way I showed you last week, by using a clipping method with the pen tool. I'm going to hold Option and click between these two layers like that, okay? Or I can also do this. I can select this image, I can right click and create a clipping mask. It's the same thing. I prefer Option or Alt click to do that, okay? Once you do that, you can still go ahead and position the image location, which is quite flexible. You don't want to move the box. If you do, it's going to control that part. So be careful not to move the wrong layer, right? To move both, you can select both layers and simply move the whole thing. So that's how you can control the placement. Okay, so you're in total control when it comes to design in here. All right, let's go click on the next boxes, like this one here, for example. Let's put an image. Instead of dragging and dropping, I'm gonna just this time use File, Place Linked or Embedded. I'll show you both. I know I've done it before, but I'll do it again. Let's do embedded first because that was the default file place method in Photoshop, okay? There was no linked, okay? Linked didn't exist up until like 4 years ago. So it was all, embedded by default just by hitting place linked. Right? So place linked, or sorry, place embedded. I go to my sources location where my images are located, and I'm going to place an image from there. Image sources. Who am I placing? Let's get this one here. So there we go. Okay. And there's the image. Just press enter. And you can move the image around. Make sure, configure your layer so it's not really going everywhere, right? So this would go in the same area where these are. So I'm going to put it right on top of this image. Okay. Actually, it's over here. I should name this accordingly. So please make sure when I look at your projects, I like to see names. I want to see everything organized. So this should be, named like shoes and stuff. This is, you can call it column 2, row 1 or something, or you can name it whatever makes sense to you, but don't just leave it untitled and rectangle. It's just harder to control that way. So when it's placed in the right container, I'm going to hold Option click and just clip it inside. And of course, you can still maneuver its placement. Okay, like that. You can also hit Command T, and yeah, you can make it bigger, smaller. You can control different sizing, scaling attributes as well. Okay, next one here, you click on the rectangle before you place the next image, and you stick with one or the other. Don't just start mixing these up, but it will show you the difference again, just in case you wonder. So if you do place linked, for example, and you do click one of these other images, let's say I click on this one here, for example, right? Because it's linked, right? The way this image will work now is I can just place it here, right? Hold Option click, right? And if you notice how it has a link icon, that means if you double click on it, you can edit the image separately. And whatever editing you do separately on this image here, it'll affect the original placement over here. You just kind of nudge this up a little bit here, right? So whatever you do here, let me just close Amazon down because we're done with it. Whatever I do here is going to change over here. So if I come here and hit Command I, like invert the picture, let's say, and I hit Command S and come over here, it's going to automatically change the image. Just Command I means invert, image adjustments, invert. I'll switch it back to normal. Command S, save it, go back here, refresh. So that's how powerful and effective these links are. If you're not going to edit the images externally, you don't have to link them. Sometimes if you lose the image by accident, it might affect your work. So I always suggest to the students just to keep it embedded. It's just easier. And to convert the image to embedded, you simply have to do oh yeah, just right click and hold on. I think you have to do it this way. Relink to file, okay, or relink to whatever. Just let's go to rasterize layer. That works too. Let's go relink to file, right? And I'm just gonna go. Oh, that's adding a new link. I'm just gonna right click, just here this way here. Let's go to embed link. There we go. When you embed it, it no longer becomes a link. So if you double click right now, it's not gonna, it's still gonna open it, but it's a separate file, right? It's a smart object. That's what it is. If I double click on this, it opens it up here. So it's still kind of linked in a way, but it's not really linked per se from the source. So either way it works, you can just kind of stick with one or the other. Okay, next one. This is the next rectangle. Let's go to place embedded again. I'll pick this image this time. Maybe I'll put this one over here. And I'll put this one on top. I'll put this in the bottom, whatever works. Option click. And that's how you clip the image inside, as you know already. And lastly, let's get one more in here. So I select the box first because I have auto select layer enabled. So when I select the box, I go to File, Place Embedded, or just drag and drop, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm going to select maybe this image over here, right? Actually, let me just grab the other one because I just want to diversify my locations here. So I'm going to grab this one. All right, so put this image here. Press enter. Option click. All right, now, and this could be an image as well. I'll grab the same one, but smaller. I'll move this one over here. Press enter. Option drag. Right, because that has like a little bit of a layout. It's got the text, the images, and the call to action. Now, but the last three, I'm going to show you different ways of doing this. So let me do one more, okay, and then I'll do the other. There's a new method I'm excited to share with you. So let's do one more place embedded. I'm going to grab this one here. Let's grab a pattern or whatever. There we go. The lighthouse. That'll do the trick. Press enter. Make sure it's in the right location. Yeah, see how it's together in the body copy. So just leave it there. Option click. There it is, right? Nice. All right. And you can see how this is getting repetitive, and eventually you'll have a nice website built all in Photoshop, nicely organized in my folders, because look, it can get really messy if you don't do that, right? You got the header, you got the labeling. You can call this like, nav bar, different parts. It's up to you. There's no real rules on doing this, as long as you follow a similar structure to keep it organized. And it makes sense, right? You have the body, the footer, the header, right? That's how you do the whole website entirely. All right, now let me show you the new method that was introduced in a few releases ago from Photoshop. Okay, so that entails you doing this part. So just click on this. This is the layer. Let me select like these three. 1, 2, 3. I want to extract these separately. So I'm just going to hold Shift. Okay. I'm going to press Command or just Command G. I'm going to group those, right? I'm going to rename this and call it new frame tool, because that's what it is, right? I'm going to move this outside like that. I'm going to close this down. So this is just basically, separated from the rest. I can show you a cool way to do this. And of course, the footer is the footer down there, right? The footer, we're just going to hit like, going to quickly go here. What usually websites do is they put some kind of copyright, or they put like a sitemap, okay? If you click inside, it becomes a text box. So just be careful not to do that. Okay. So to prevent it from becoming a text box, maybe click outside and then type your stuff. just gonna type here. Just something that you see common in most websites here. Wow. There we go. There we go. All right. Copyright, all rights reserved. All right, that's fine. I'm hitting Command Shift less than just so I can have this thing there set up. There we go. That's the center. All right. So the new method now, I'm going to apply it on this new frame tool here. I'm going to do a quick save. I'll do another version here. So I'll save a copy. And this will be a website wireframe example with color and images. Okay, so this is the final rendered version, I guess, because you're gonna like three. You start with wireframes, grayscales, you introduce color, and then you introduce the real, images and stuff. So for this one, I'm gonna, instead of using these rectangles that I have, like they were fine for the placeholders for the time being, but it won't help me help you understand the new method unless I recreate them again. However, just to point things out, this might interfere because it's overlapping this area. So will this image. So I'm very careful to lock these layers before proceeding. So just remember, when you're done this, or you do it this way, just lock these other layers that are close to the adjacent positioning, okay? So in that case, I'm gonna hit this body. See this body copy here, the header. Yeah, I'm just gonna select all three and just lock them up. Okay, so this way accidentally I can't really select them, even if I want to. I'll even lock the footer. Okay, so just lock and unlock. Locking is a great way to keep things from accidentally selecting. These are okay, however, so just those are not. Right. And even these, I can even lock these too, just to kind of create the new frame tool. These are just temps, call them temporary, right? But I need some kind of guide, so I'm going to leave them for now, just to kind of see where I'm going with this. So I will maybe lock them. I will lock them because I'm going to delete them later. These will be deleted, and I will even control the opacity. See how they're like very muted, like 40% opacity, right? And then I'll lock them up again. So 40% opacity and lock there. So pretend they're not there, but they are there. I can kind of see where my placement will be. All right, so now I'm going to introduce the new tool. This is by itself, lo and behold, the frame tool. And there's a little tutorial on how to use it. So what does the frame tool do? It creates placeholders, frames for images. So it's not just for websites, it's for anything. Let's watch a quick video. Why not?
The frame tool allows you to create placeholder frames.
There's Jeffrey.
Which can later be filled with placed images. This convenient tool is perfect for planning compositions, organizing your design elements, or creating mockups. To access the frame tool, press K on your keyboard or find it in the toolbar. Click and drag to draw a frame on the canvas. You can add an image to the frame by dragging and dropping directly into the frame. It will automatically scale to fit the frame's dimensions. Both the frame and the image inside can be selected, resized, or rotated together or separately. To select the frame or image independently, use the Move tool. Click to select the frame and double-click to select the image. To replace an image in a frame, simply drag and drop a new image on top of the frame. The new image will automatically scale to fit the frame, replacing the previous image.
All right, nice and short, nice and sweet, less than a minute, 51 seconds. I like these little tutorials because they're professionally done and they're made from the Adobe people. So you know they're on point. Okay, so guess on what he said. I'm going to utilize this frame tool the same way. So you just have to click on it and go ahead here and just simply draw a frame. Okay, a frame that's similar to like InDesign. Okay, InDesign, I know you're using it in your page layout class. So this frame now has two properties, okay? This is the box, Okay, and this is the content. So you can select either or. Okay, so when you do that, you can then go to File, okay, and place the image, place embedded. And we're going to place the images from here. I'm going to grab this one. It's like an ad, right? And it's going to go automatically in this little placeholder area. Now be careful because you can easily select the wrong thing because by default it's selected. You go to the move tool, you press Command T, and you can literally move this to any placement that you want. Like that. Press Enter, and it's done. And that's how the the frame tool works. You can just click away to deselect. So now two things. You can select the frame or the content in the frame. There's two things here. If you select the frame, you can control the frame size, right? If you select the image and you press, you're in the move tool and you press Command T, you control the image size. If you select both means you got to click over here. You see my mouse? So you don't click here or there because that's what I just did. You click over here to select everything. And if you then decide to scale, you can scale the whole thing. So it's really neat how Photoshop implemented the best of both worlds. When I say the best of both worlds, I mean a little bit of InDesign, a little bit of Illustrator, because in Illustrator you can have a shape and make a clipping mask on an image and do the same thing. So this is in a way how it works in a nutshell, but it's kind of like together, like a mask method, which is kind of cool. Let's do it again. I'll target this area now, simply going to this frame tool, draw a little box, right, like you would in InDesign. I like to reference InDesign because it's close. This time I'll drag and drop. Let's see how drag and drop works because I went to File, Place. Let's drag and drop this in here. Boom, that works. You just can't miss. You have to kind of go right in there. Go to the Move tool, press Command T. I like to size it a little bigger than the usual so it's not cut off. Press Enter, deselect. Let's get one more in here. Here's so that one I dragged and dropped. This one I went to File, Place. And the last one I'll do is click another frame here. Let's do a drag and drop again. It's kind of easier. What didn't I use yet? Maybe this one. Okay. So I'm gonna drag this one here, make this smaller. Oh, come on. I'm trying to resize this window. There we go. Okay, drag and drop. Don't miss. Right in there. Command T. Resize. Hit Enter. Deselect. Right. And you can see how, whichever way you see it, you can drop the images in there and make a whole website just by dragging and dropping. Now, this should be in this, it's the wrong place. So I'm just going to select all these three layers and drag them in here because it is based on this new frame tool. I'll select the temporary rectangles that I had and delete them. Oh, I got to unlock them first. Unlock, delete. Thank you for coming. And they're done. Okay. So you can see how there's a new way to place images in Photoshop in a more like a page layout manner. And there's nothing wrong with using the older method. That's just using, like a clipping mask method, or you can use a frame tool method, whichever method you find useful. Very good for website designing or any type of layout designing in Photoshop. All right, let's put a texture on this last one here just to kind of wrap it up. So I'm going to go inside the footer, open it up, and I'll do I'll just do a texture quickly. I'll do place embedded. I don't think the texture works well, so I'm just going to delete it. You get the idea, right? All right, I'm going to leave the footer alone. It's better without the texture. All right, so I'm going to save this again. This is the fully rendered version with everything that I have, and this is a nice way to see the website. You can also change the background color, which is kind of nice. If you don't like the way it looks here, you can kind of change it to blue. You can do black. You can see it different ways. To share the design to the client, you can save a whole thing. You can't give them a Photoshop file, right? But you could spit out quickly a copy, and you can give them like a JPEG composite. So you can say, listen, here's a JPEG, low quality, so they can't steal your design. Well, they can do it anyways. I mean, these days you can't prevent things. They can screen capture your stuff. It doesn't matter. But give them like a decent size, maybe like, high quality. It doesn't have to be maximum. Okay. So this way they can't get the best quality from your work. Click OK. So now you save the JPEG, and I save the Photoshop file. So when you go ahead and do a preview, right, they'll get to see this, and they'll say, "Hey, this is the website. It's not functional yet. It's just a design. Do you like it? What would you change?" Of course, this is a preliminary conversation because before you get to that point, you're going to communicate. First you're going to communicate this and say, hey, do you like this? We're going to put pictures here, images, menu here. They'll say, yeah, this looks good. Let's see what you got next. The next is basically the wireframe. Okay, so the wireframe is probably this other one here. Okay, so from this one, we go to this one. So we introduce a little bit of colors, and then you introduce the other stuff. So you can kind of build your way slowly to introduce the website. And then, when it's all said and done, then you build it in HTML. There's no point you touching a line of code yet until the design is approved, because it's so much easier to communicate this way than it is by not just going to start coding a website in HTML without having a plan. It's like building a house and not knowing the blueprint, or building a car. Anything that's designed needs a blueprint or a prototype or some type of a plan to move forward. Same with web design, same with apps, same with everything. You need to have a blueprint. So this now becomes a blueprint for what's next to come. So next week, we'll take this blueprint, and I'm going to show you how to extract all these elements and optimize the images, because that's a very important step as being a designer, to optimize a website for what's called the next step, which is converting the website or the assets for HTML use. And yes, you could then use this to help you to build your other website for your other class, because once this is done, all you have to do then is build your sections. You got your footer, you got your header, you got your hero banner, you got your sections, columns, and rows. You just stick the images in, and the text will be done in HTML. So this is one thing that Photoshop won't do for you. You'll have to do that in code. Same as the menu. You'll have to do the menu in CSS and HTML. Same as the footer. But all the graphics and images, you can just populate them using the Photoshop extraction method, which I'll show you next week. Alrighty, so that was a good, nice tutorial there. Hope I captured everything. I believe I did. Having said that, I'll stop the recording and then I'll take some questions if you have any. All right, so let me go ahead and do that. Well, this session's done with the recording. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.